Hello, and welcome back to my channel where we make life happen for us instead of to us, and I talk about how we can do that. And today I want to talk about how your identity is key to making life happen for you. So essentially, you are whoever you say you are, and you are like a lobster. And I know you're like, what? But I'm going to explain what I mean when I say you are like a lobster. It's going to make sense. So, in terms of your identity and you being whoever you say you are, now that's important to making life happen for you because you will bring about whatever it is that you believe or that you're convinced of, right? I've talked about this before in multiple videos. Um, you know, whoever you believe you are, you will act accordingly, right? If you say, for example, that I gave this example in another video, but if you say like no one likes you or like you can't make friends, you're gonna act accordingly, right? Subconsciously, you're gonna end up doing things that will make you unapproachable. You are going to perceive actions of other people through that lens of like they don't like me, right? Like things that other people might be like, oh no, like that's normal. Like you are going to perceive it in a way where you're going to think someone doesn't like you. Or you may consciously end up doing things or responding in ways that, because your identity is, oh, I'm not someone who is likable, like you're going to end up being in like responding in those ways, acting in those ways, right? So this is why I said whoever you believe you are, you will act accordingly, right? And your brain is going to work to bring about whatever it is that you are, that you believe or that you are convinced of. Now, in terms of you being like a lobster, so by the way, heads up, like this is a little off the cuff. I did write like some brief notes, but I'm going to tie it all together. So, in terms of you being like a lobster, I heard this analogy from Dan Coe, and I thought it was very interesting. In one of his recent videos, he said, you're like a lobster. You get too big for your shell, and you get too big for your shell, and you need to remove it, or else you die. But if you remove it, you're left vulnerable as you create a new identity of self. So in this case, the shell, in terms of you being a lobster, like a lobster, the shell is your identity, right? So you getting too big for your shell, this is your desire. The you getting too big for this is your desire, the life you want to live, the thing you want to make happen for you. Right now, that is bigger. Like the thing you want to make happen for you, your desire, the thing you desire is bigger than the current identity that you have. Because if it wasn't, you'd have what you want already, right? But like you don't, which is why you're probably here. You don't have what you want already. You, in terms of making life happen for you, living life on your terms, you don't have that yet, right? Which is why you need to remove that shell, that old identity, right? You need to cast it aside. And you do that by not doing anymore what you're doing, right? Not thinking the same way, not acting the same way. Sometimes that means not hanging around the same people. Like you got to do things differently. What's that saying? Something about like you can't, if you, something about like if you do the same things over and over, like you're not going to get a different result. Like you're not going to get a different result by doing the same thing, right? Like it's like that, right? Now, in terms of living your life on your terms, that requires a new identity. So this is you casting off that old lobster shell and taking on a new identity, building back a new shell, a new identity. And as I mentioned, you bring about whatever it is that you are convinced of. Because I'm going to try and make this short. I've said this in my other videos, but whatever whatever you're convinced of, your brain brings about for you, either consciously or unconsciously. I'll just leave it there and move on. So how do you get a new identity? Right? Because you need this new identity. You need to be in that new identity to help you get the life that you want to live. And you do this through the things I've mentioned before: imagination, immersing yourself in the experience, right? You like who you are. Let's say that the thing that you want, like you'd be a different person, right? If you were living the life you wanted to live, you'd probably be elsewhere. You'd be acting a little different. You'd think differently. So like immersing yourself in that experience, using your imagination. I talked about visualization, immersing yourself in that experience. I have watched some recent videos, one recent video, but I've seen this said before, where people have said that like they would drive to like a rich part of their city, and they would just like go in the coffee shops and just like sit down and normalize the experience to themselves of them living in that place. Because again, I say again, but I mean because again in my last videos, I've talked about this. When something is normalized to you, it is safe. Like your brain takes it as safe. The whole point of your brain's job, or your brain's main job, is to keep you safe. And whatever is normal is safe, because if you have experienced it before and survived, it is safe enough because you survived. So the more you normalize something, the more safe it becomes to you. So what these people did is they'd go into these rich areas and they'd sit in the coffee shops. They'd walk around the neighborhood. They'd even see a house that they like and envision themselves there. This one person I watched, she said she did that. She specifically went to a neighborhood and there was a particular house there, and she was just imagining herself like living in that house, imagining herself outside, gardening, like doing something in the yard. And not too much later, she was in that house doing that thing that she had envisioned. She normalized it to herself. And whatever you normalize, to bring it back to what I was saying, whatever you normalize is safe, and your brain is going to want to continue doing the things that are normal, continue doing the things that are safe. And that's why sometimes when we want to make changes, it seems hard or it seems challenging, because your brain doesn't like change. Our brains usually have a bias to keep things going as they're going, because how things are going are safe. And that's why there's the saying, you have to come out of your comfort zone, right? So by immersing, in this example, by immersing herself in that experience, she made it feel normalized. She made it feel safe. And then her brain went, okay, like this is normal, and normal is safe, and it's going to work. Like her brain worked to bring about, either consciously or unconsciously, her brain worked to bring about the thing that she wanted because it was normal, it was safe. So in terms of you taking on a new identity, that's part of it. Part of it is, that's why I talk about imagination and visualization. It's immersing yourself in that experience to make it normal to your brain. And again, like, you don't have to visualize. When I say visualize, it doesn't have to be like seeing. Again, it can be hearing, it can be a sense of smell. The whole point is just to engross yourself as much as you can in the experience. And in particular, what I have mentioned before is not just in the experience, like after you have what you like, after you get what you want. Let's say it's a point after you get what you want, immersing yourself in that experience. So in her case, she wasn't like visualizing what she would do up to that point of getting that house. She visualized, no, this is what, like, I have the house. This is what it would be like to be in the house. Like, I have this property, this is what it would be like to be on the grounds doing whatever I would do for a property that I own, right? Yeah, so there's that. Another part of getting a new identity is repetition. I've talked about repetition as well. But if you repeat something enough to yourself, you will start to believe it. In fact, it doesn't even have to just be you repeating it, right? If you hear other people repeat certain things, you're gonna start to believe it, right? That's it. Marketing. I don't know, marketing 101, propaganda. Like that's all part of it. Repetition is a huge part of it. Um, I was gonna say something else there, but I don't remember. I'll just moving on to what I was gonna say after that. Um, I had recently heard a tip in terms of repetition. I had recently heard a tip about doing repetition in the mirror. So I haven't tried this, but I was watching people talk about this, and I'll link one of those YouTubers in the description. But essentially, what she said is there is a part of your brain called, I don't know, mirror neurons. Is that what it's called? I think it's called mirror neurons. Yeah, it wasn't molecules. I think it was mirror neurons that she was talking about. But the premise is that like your brain recognizes who you are in the mirror, right? And because your brain recognizes who you are in the mirror, when you are seeing yourself in the mirror saying something, your brain is more likely to believe it. Now again, I haven't tried this, but like this person talked about it, and there's some other people I watched who talked about it, and that is a method that really resonated with them, and they found it very, very helpful in helping them to get the life that they want, to get a life on their terms, getting towards that. They found it very, very helpful. So that may be helpful in terms of repetition, like looking at yourself in the mirror and repeating certain things to yourself as you're saying it, like looking in your eyes and repeating certain things to yourself as you're saying it could be helpful. But either way, in terms of getting a new identity, as I've mentioned already, imagination, immersing yourself in that experience, repetition. But the whole point of this, like doing these things, is to think a different way, right? Because you having a new, like, you would think differently. If you had the thing that you wanted, you would think differently. You wouldn't think that you wouldn't have it, for one. You would think differently. You'd be like, no, I have this, and this is how my day goes, or this is how, Um, and, you'd be in a different environment. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Go there in your mind. Repeat certain things to yourself. You want to live differently. And in terms of like a real life example, so I want to give a tip from, I think that'll help from my life. So if you don't know my story, I retired a couple years ago. I'm in my early 30s and I retired a couple years ago. And essentially what happened was I got laid off. I was planning to leave the job, but I got laid off when I said I was planning to leave. And now I am living life on my terms. And if I do work, it's work for myself. I don't work for anybody unless I want to. And a part of what helped me shape my new identity is repeating this phrase to myself. If it exists for someone else, it exists for me. And I think that helped. Firstly, I got this from Stephanie Perry, from one of the co-founders of Exodus Summit. Exodus Summit is a group for Black women, specifically about helping Black women move abroad. And that's something that Stephanie Perry like always said repeatedly. If it exists for someone else, it exists for me. Or if it exists for someone else, it can exist for me. And hearing her say that, I'm like, oh, I think that makes sense. Like, if it's already out in the world, like, why can't it happen for me? If they could take the steps to do it on whatever terms they have, like, I can probably figure that out. And I made that part of my identity. And the reason I think that this will help you is when you start, like this is what happened for me, right? When I started saying if it exists for someone else, it can exist for me. Yeah, because I started repeating this to myself, I started to believe it. And then when I would see other people living a certain life, I'm like, okay, that exists in the world, which means it can exist for me. And yeah, I don't know, because I was repeating that to myself, I believed it, and then when I saw it out in the world, I was like, okay, that is something that if I want, I it can happen for me. Because if it can happen for them, like if it already exists, this is not something that doesn't exist, right? If it's something, this is something that already exists and it happens for other people and other people who look like me, well, it can happen for me too, right? Like it was very encouraging. And I feel like that because I feel like that affirmation, I guess that's what it is, because that affirmation, like I was convinced of that and I made that part of my identity. When I saw other people living the life I wanted, I could kind of, it's like it helped me take on that new identity of the life I wanted to live. Because if I could see that it actually existed, that and other people who looked like me were doing it, like I could have that happen for me too. And then, consciously and unconsciously, I guess I made it happen for me. Okay, so I hope that made sense. I told you this was a little, I think I said this. This was a little off the cuff. Like I wrote a few notes. It was a little off the cuff, but the whole point is like, if you want to live life on your terms, if you want to make life happen for you, whatever you're doing now isn't life isn't happening for you the way you want, right? So in order to make life happen for you the way you want, you need to be convinced that it can. And one of the best ways you can be convinced that it can is by adopting a new identity. Something else that that could also help you to adopt a new identity, I think I mentioned this in another video, is like taking on an avatar. Like think of like when Beyonce called herself Sasha Fierce, like the whole fake it till you make it. Like she literally was like, hey, when I'm on stage, I am this person, right? Until she didn't need to be that person anymore. She was herself. She didn't need to act like a certain person, certain confident person on stage, because she eventually became that person on stage because, she was shy on stage and whatever, which is why she had to adopt a new identity on stage, and she was able to adopt it to the point that it became hers. Something that I also read has helped some people in terms of creating a new identity. So like do the things I'm saying to do, but also once you have said you're going to do certain things, what can help you get in the mode is more in the mode or more in the identity or practicing it is what I'm mentioning about taking on an avatar, creating an avatar. So you say, hey, this is a life I want to live. The person who is living this life I want to live, they act this particular way. Whenever I'm wearing headphones, I'm going to practice acting this particular way. Whenever I'm speaking in front of people, I'm gonna practice acting this particular way. Yeah, and you can, I mentioned wearing headphones. That's something that can be a trigger. They call that a trigger. They, as in like the people who wrote books about this stuff, they call that a trigger. Something that can, when you put it on, can help you get in the mode of, or remind your brain of, oh, this is a new identity. Like this is, I am not being old identity anymore. I'm being new identity at this point because this particular thing is happening. So whether that's on a stage, whether that's putting on a particular thing, whether that's being in a particular space or in front of particular people, that's something that some people have mentioned can help them. Okay, so, oh my, 20 odd minutes again. Okay, I'm gonna end this video here. If you found this video helpful and actionable, please let me know. Yes, and if you want some more help from me directly, There are quite a few ways to do that. One is through joining my newsletter. I mean, like outside of watching these videos, right? Like if you want one-on-one, if you want something more direct, one is joining my newsletter where I give you tips and inspiration and stuff to help you live life on your terms and to help you reach your goals. The next is coaching calls. I offer a clarity call to help you better understand what it is exactly that you want, because sometimes it's a little tricky figuring that out. And then I also offer a freedom strategy session where it's like, you know what you want and you let me know that, how you want to live life on your terms. And then I, take 1 hour and understand as intimately as I can, like, your skills and your experience and your life experience, etc. And then I suggest some ways that may be out of the box. I suggest some ways to help you get on that path. The next thing is a structured journal. As I mentioned, this is a journal I use to keep track of my goals and keep me in a positive headspace and help me when I'm making life happen for me. And then there is that, I've mentioned it in I think a couple other videos, that Big Sister service, where, I'm just going to allow, like, you can just vent. I wanted to be a therapist or a psychologist, but I didn't get there. So this is as close as I get. You can vent to me and I will be there as like a positive, supportive big sister for you. Maybe give you advice, but just, be a listening ear. Because I know we don't always have that. And that'll be something cheaper, accessible, like, I don't know, $20 for 1 hour or something. Like it's accessible. The whole point is it's accessible. I want these things to be accessible. And if you want to work with me in a business sense, because I work with small businesses, I have a business, leadlaunchsolutions.com. I create websites. I'm thinking of introducing web hosting as well when I create websites. So if you're interested, you let me know. Or like I create like other business materials for small businesses. And I also offer business coaching or consultations because there may be ways to do things there may be ways for you to do things easier. If you have a small business, there may be ways for you to do things easier that you are not aware of. And I have done that for years with other businesses. So I will be taking those skills and helping you with them. And I also offer a done for you service. So like, if you don't want to do certain things yourself, you can pay me and I will set up your systems and then get that engine running smoothly. Okay, that is it. This video is long, so I'm going to end it here. Links in the description if you're interested in any of those things. Other than that, I wish you health, wealth, and happiness, and I will see you in the next video.